I forgot Strange New Worlds already introduced its own versions of Star Trek's Trelane. It's easy to think of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds as the franchise's fresh face, giving us bright visuals, a playful episodic format, and new character arcs for the Enterprise crew before Captain Kirk takes the chair. But what often gets lost in the shuffle is how much the series quietly pays homage to the original series, not just in broad strokes, but in the specific, deep-cut kinds of references that only longtime fans will recognize. One of those deep cuts? The fact that Strange New Worlds has already introduced its own spiritual successors to one of TOS's most eccentric antagonists, Trelane, the godlike trickster from the 1967 episode The Squire of Gothos. It's not a beat-for-beat recreation, nor is it a direct cameo, but if you look closely, SNW has already given us multiple characters that echo Trelane's core DNA: arrogant omnipotence, theatrical showmanship, and a deep fascination and misunderstanding of humanity. It's the kind of thing you only notice after thinking back through the series episodes and realizing, wait a second, this isn't new. I've seen this before. Trelane's original TOS role, the godlike child who loved to play. In case you need a quick refresher, Trelane was one of Star Trek's earliest examples of the Q-type alien, a being with seemingly limitless power, zero accountability, and a flair for the dramatic. Played by William Campbell, Trelane traps the Enterprise crew in a facsimile of 18th century Europe, dons elaborate costumes, and treats everyone as unwilling actors in his personal theater. What made him interesting wasn't just his powers, but his personality. Unlike the later next-generation character Q, who had an agenda tied to testing humanity's moral worth, Trelane was essentially a spoiled child, playful, petulant, and dangerously unpredictable. By the end of The Squire of Gothos, it's revealed that he is literally a child in the eyes of his powerful parents, who apologize for his mischief and whisk him away. Trelane set the template for the kind of omnipotent, chaotic, neutral antagonist Star Trek would revisit many times, sometimes openly, sometimes in disguise. Strange New Worlds' approach to godlike mischief makers. Strange New Worlds isn't a series that shies away from fantastical, almost fairy tale-like scenarios. It's the only modern Trek show that openly embraces the weirdness of TOS, letting one episode be a tense submarine-style standoff and the next be a comedic romp with costumes, singing, or body swaps. That tonal flexibility is the perfect breeding ground for Trelane-like figures, characters who can bend reality to their whims and force the crew to play along. In just 2 seasons, SNW has introduced more than one, and they may not be labeled Trelane, but the fingerprints are all over them. 1. The Elysian Kingdom, the storybook puppet master. The most obvious homage comes in the Season 1 episode, The Elysian Kingdom. Dr. M'Benga finds himself and the entire crew transported into the fantasy world of his daughter Rukia's favorite storybook, complete with elaborate costumes, medieval politics, and overwritten dialogue. Here's the twist. It's not a holodeck simulation. Star Trek is decades away from inventing that tech and universe. Instead, it's the work of a mysterious consciousness living inside the ship's nebula-bound energy field. This being befriends Rukia, granting her wish to make the story real and cast the crew as its characters. This is pure Trelane energy. Like Trelane, the entity has no malicious master plan. It simply reshapes reality for entertainment and companionship, completely disregarding the inconvenience and danger it causes for the people involved. The crew's consent? Not a factor. Their personalities? Irrelevant. Everyone is just a piece on the chessboard of the omnipotent host. Even the resolution mirrors Trelane's parental intervention ending. Rukia chooses to stay with the alien, much like Trelane being whisked away by his parents. The difference is that here, the tone is bittersweet rather than comedic. Still, the dynamic, childlike curiosity paired with limitless reality-bending power feels like a 21st century echo of The Squire of Gothos. 2. Those Old Scientists, a meta-level trickster. Season 2's crossover with Lower Decks, Those Old Scientists, doesn't seem like a Trelane story on the surface. It's a romp involving time travel, not reality warping. But if you squint, you can see a familiar pattern. A powerful, mysterious anomaly plucks characters out of their normal lives and drops them into a completely different narrative style, forcing them to adapt to an absurd, heightened reality. This time, the trickster isn't a person at all, it's a portal. But the effect is the same. Boimler and Mariner from Lower Decks arrive on the SNW Enterprise, and suddenly, the tone of the show shifts into a meta-comedy about Star Trek itself. That's something Trelane would absolutely have appreciated, reshaping the world around him to match his preferred form of entertainment. Where Trelane had 18th century ballrooms, this anomaly creates a crossover episode that blurs the boundaries between genres. It's playful chaos without lasting harm, which is very much in the trickster tradition. 3. Subspace Rhapsody, the musical meddler. You can't talk about modern Trek trickster stories without mentioning Subspace Rhapsody, SNW's full-on musical episode. While this one's catalyst is once again a non-sentient anomaly, a subspace fold that causes music to manifest, the effect on the crew is uncannily Trelane-like. Everyone is forced to participate in a reality that ignores logic, operating instead on theatricality and emotion. Private thoughts are revealed through song, secrets are exposed, and the entire ship becomes a stage. If you replace the anomaly with an omnipotent alien in a feathered hat, you've basically got the Squire of Gothos, the musical. In fact, part of what makes Subspace Rhapsody so much fun is that it treats the absurd premise with total sincerity, just as TOS treated Trelane's antics as a genuine threat despite the silliness. SNW's Trelane equivalence work. It would have been easy for Strange New Worlds to just bring back Trelane directly. In universe, his people the Q-like, never officially named Trelane species, could plausibly still be meddling with Starfleet ships a century before Picard's time. But SNW avoids that shortcut, instead creating new scenarios that feel like Trelane stories without being literal remakes. That's partly because the modern audience expects more emotional depth. Trelane in 1967 was a broad caricature, an alien doing an impression of a human aristocrat. In 2023, the SNW equivalents tend to have a point of view we can empathize with. The nebula entity in the Elysian Kingdom is lonely, not malicious. The musical anomaly in Subspace Rhapsody exposes vulnerabilities and drives character growth. Even the Lower Decks crossover anomaly serves to celebrate Star Trek itself. These stories keep the chaotic, reality-bending fun of Trelane but rooted in emotional stakes, making them fit seamlessly into SNW's balance of adventure and character drama. The Q connection and the godlike archetype. It's worth noting that in Star Trek lore, fans often lump Trelane in with the Q continuum, even though the canon has never explicitly confirmed he's a member. The idea makes sense. Both are omnipotent, whimsical, and have an outsized fascination with humanity. SNW's Trelane-likes fit into that broader godlike being archetype that's been part of Trek since day one. We've seen it in characters L,